Bruce Lee was just looking for a quiet evening, a moment to breathe away from the chaos. But what he found was something else entirely, a deadly trap, a town ruled by fear, and a gang that thought they were untouchable. Their mistake? They crossed the wrong man. Stay till the end to see how this battle unfolds. And hey, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop your thoughts in the comments. The night was calm, the air crisp, and the soft rustling of leaves accompanied Bruce as he walked down a narrow park path. A rare moment of solitude, far from the flashing lights of Hollywood, far from expectations. Just a quiet town, a place where no one recognized him. Dressed in a simple dark jacket and loose pants, he blended in, just another traveler passing through. A distant sound caught his attention, laughter. A playground stood at the edge of the park, children's voices drifting through the evening air. A reminder of innocence. Of a time before life got complicated. Bruce had spent years pushing his body beyond limits, chasing perfection. But even warriors needed peace. Then, impact. He rounded a bend and collided with someone. Instinct kicked in, his stance shifting automatically. Before him stood an elderly woman, upright despite the cane she held firmly in one hand. Dressed in a neatly pressed military uniform, her short graying hair peeked out from beneath a soft cap, dark sunglasses shielding her eyes. "I'm terribly sorry," she said, voice steady, controlled. "I should have been more careful." Bruce noticed it immediately, the way she moved, cautious yet precise. Then it clicked. She was blind. "It's no problem at all," he said calmly. "Are you all right?" She nodded, adjusting her cane. "Just a little clumsy, I suppose." But Bruce could tell, this woman wasn't fragile. There was something about her presence, something unbreakable. Not just the uniform, not just the quiet authority in her voice, but the resilience she carried. As if she had walked through fire and survived. He couldn't just walk away. "Let me buy you dinner," he offered. "Consider it an apology for nearly knocking you over." She hesitated, then smiled politely. "That's very kind, but unnecessary. I'm perfectly fine." Bruce smiled back, but his was more insistent. "I insist. Besides, I could use the company." She paused, then nodded. "Well, if you insist. My name is Marin James, by the way." Bruce extended his hand lightly. "Bruce. No last name." "Not tonight." They walked together, Bruce adjusting his pace to match hers. Conversation flowed naturally. He learned she had been a combat medic in Iraq, saving lives in brutal conditions. An explosion had taken her sight. She should have died that day, but she lived. And she carried that survival with quiet strength. By the time they reached a small cafe at the end of the park's path, Bruce was intrigued. Hollywood was full of actors playing heroes. But Marin? She was the real thing. Inside, the cafe was peaceful, a few scattered patrons murmuring over coffee. Bruce guided her to a booth by the window, ordering something warm and filling. As they waited, he watched her, how she listened intently, how she navigated the space with precision despite never seeing it. "You don't have to feel awkward around me," she said suddenly, as if reading his thoughts. Bruce chuckled. "Was it that obvious?" She smiled slightly. "People get nervous when they don't know what to say. They look at blindness like it's some kind of tragedy. Like it makes someone less." She tilted her head. "But I don't see it that way." Bruce leaned in, intrigued. "How do you see it?" Marin ran her fingers lightly along the table's edge, grounding herself. "Life doesn't stop because you lose something. You just find new ways to keep moving." Their conversation stretched on. She spoke of her late husband, the man who had been her rock after the war. Of her estranged son, lost to addiction, swallowed by trouble with the law. But she never complained. Never sought pity. She simply told her story the way a soldier would, honest, unembellished, without expectation of sympathy. Bruce listened. And for once, he wasn't the one being studied. He was the student. Their food arrived. They ate slowly, talking, understanding. But peace never lasts. Outside, the quiet town wasn't as quiet as it seemed. And soon, Bruce would realize this night was about to take a turn no one expected. Stay tuned, because the battle is just beginning. For once, Bruce didn't have to talk about movies, about fame, about the endless cycle of superficial nonsense that came with being a celebrity. With Marin, he wasn't Bruce Lee the icon, he was just a man, having dinner with someone worth listening to. As their meal neared its end, Bruce reached into his pocket, and his stomach dropped. Empty. My wallet, he muttered, sitting up straighter. I think I left it in the park. Marin remained calm, completely unfazed. It happens, she said simply. Bruce exhaled, standing. I'll be right back. Do you mind waiting here while I check? Of course, she nodded. Bruce hurried out, retracing his steps through the park, his mind racing. He could have sworn he had it when they walked in. But after searching the pathway twice, he found nothing. When he returned to the cafe empty-handed, Marin was still seated at the booth, calm as ever. No luck, he sighed, sitting across from her. I must have dropped it somewhere else. Marin smiled lightly. These things happen. Don't worry. Before Bruce could respond, the cafe door swung open with a heavy thud. A presence entered, one that set every instinct in Bruce on high alert. He looked up. A large, burly man stepped inside, his worn leather jacket covered in patches. An unkempt beard, a cold, dead stare. He didn't just enter the room, he took control of it. His gaze swept across the cafe, then locked onto Marin. His lips curled into a smirk. Bruce's body tensed automatically. Years of training had given him a sixth sense for trouble before it arrived. This was it. The stranger took a few slow steps toward a nearby table, but his eyes never left Marin. Bruce stayed seated, his focus sharp, his muscles ready. He didn't like this. Not one bit. Marin, unaware of the man's stare, remained composed. Did you find your wallet? She asked. Bruce forced himself to refocus. No, but I'll deal with it later, he said, keeping his voice even while every instinct screamed to stay alert. The man shifted slightly, cracking his knuckles. Then, loud enough for everyone to hear, he muttered, well. Didn't think I'd see a washed-up old monkey in uniform today. The cafe fell into thick silence. Bruce's jaw clenched. His hands tightened into fists under the table. But he stayed calm. Not yet. Marin tilted her head, confused. Is someone talking to me? The man chuckled darkly. Yeah, sweetheart, I'm talking to you. Just curious how a blind old. Bruce moved. He stood so fast the table shook, his presence suddenly towering over the man. The entire cafe held its breath. Watch your mouth, Bruce said, his voice calm but razor sharp. The man smirked, enjoying himself. Oh? And what's this now? The great Bruce Lee playing hero? He took a step closer, his breath thick with beer and cigarettes. Didn't peg you for the type to babysit old war relics. What's next? Gonna feed her, too? Bruce exhaled slowly. His patience was razor thin, but his stance stayed relaxed. Energy controlled. You got a problem? He asked. The man leaned in, eyes glinting with malice. Yeah, I got a problem. I don't like seeing people like her walking around like they belong here. His lips curled into a sneer. Ain't nothing worse than a black. The insult never left his mouth. Bruce's hand shot out, gripping the man's wrist like an iron vise. Bone. Tendon. Crushing. The man's smirk faltered. His bravado wavered. I'm gonna give you one chance, Bruce said, voice barely above a whisper. Apologize. Now. The man tried to yank his arm free. Bruce didn't budge. His grip tightened. A sharp grunt of pain escaped the man's throat. "You don't tell me what to do," he spat, masking his discomfort. "You think you're special? I don't give a damn who you are. This is our town. Our place. Not hers." Bruce's knuckles whitened. The sheer hatred in the man's voice curled something dark in his stomach. Then, the door swung open again. A second figure stepped inside. Bigger. Meaner. A shaved head, a tangled beard, and a Nazi tattoo displayed proudly on his forearm. Bruce instinctively positioned himself between Marin and the two men. The new arrival grinned. "Problem here, Rick?" he asked, glancing between them. Rick, still wincing from Bruce's grip, yanked his arm free, sneering. "Nah," he muttered. "Just educating the big guy on how things work." Bruce didn't move. Didn't flinch. The cafe had gone completely silent. The other patrons were frozen in place, some looking away, others too afraid to even breathe. And just like that, Bruce knew. This night wasn't over. It was just getting started. Rick crossed his arms, confidence surging now that his backup had arrived. He sneered, nodding toward Marin. "You know, I got a real issue with your friend here," he said, voice dripping with mockery. "I mean, look at her, what, 80? And still leeching off the government, taking our tax money." Marin's lips pressed together, but she remained silent. Rick wasn't done. Spent her life fixing up soldiers who should have been left to rot. And now we're all supposed to be grateful? Hell no. She should have died over there with the rest of them. Bruce's pulse pounded in his ears. He wanted nothing more than to break this man in half. But before he could act, Marin's voice cut through the tension. "I've heard better insults from dying men in a war zone," she said calmly. Rick's smirk wavered. Marin turned slightly toward Bruce. "You can sit down now. He's not worth it." Bruce inhaled sharply. She was right. This scumbag wasn't worth a fight. Not yet. Rick let out a low chuckle. "That's adorable. You really think you can just ignore me?" Bruce's instincts screamed that this wasn't over. Rick glanced at his tattooed friend. "Come on, Duke. We'll let this slide for now." But as they turned to leave, Rick leaned in close, whispering just loud enough for Bruce to hear. "Next time, she won't be so lucky." Bruce's knuckles cracked. His muscles flexed involuntarily. Then, slam. The door shut behind them, leaving a heavy silence in its wake. Bruce turned to Marin. "Are you okay?" She exhaled slowly, her expression unreadable. "That's not the first time I've dealt with men like them." "Yeah, well, it's not gonna be the last," Bruce muttered. Marin adjusted her cane, nodding. "I know. The moment should have passed. But something felt unfinished. The way Rick said that last sentence, it wasn't an idle threat." Bruce glanced toward the window just in time to see them lingering near their motorcycles, still watching. And then, Rick grinned. A slow, deliberate grin. Then, with casual ease, he raised his hand and made a gun gesture with his fingers, pointing it directly at Marin. Bruce's body tensed all over again. This wasn't over. Not even close. The hunt for the Hell Wolves. Bruce didn't sleep that night. The events at the cafe replayed in his mind, an endless loop. The threats. The way Rick and Duke had stared Marin down. The sick satisfaction they took in their words. Bruce had seen men like them before. Bullies who relied on fear and numbers to maintain control. But this was different. Their confidence wasn't just arrogance, it was security. They weren't afraid of consequences. Which meant only one thing. They had protection. At dawn, Bruce left his motel and walked to a small local diner, choosing a corner booth with a clear view of the entrance. He ordered a cup of tea, pulled out his phone, and started digging. It didn't take long for patterns to emerge. The name Hell Wolves surfaced again and again. Not just a biker gang. Something much bigger. Reports of violence. Drug busts where charges mysteriously vanished. Business owners who stood up to them bankrupt. Missing. The deeper Bruce looked, the worse it got. Then he found it. An old news article about a man named Samuel Hargrave, a former cop who had allegedly tried to investigate the Hell Wolves years ago. The article was brief. Too brief. It stated that Hargrave resigned and left town after receiving multiple death threats. Bruce frowned. That kind of fear? It didn't come from just a gang. It came from something systemic. A chair scraped against the floor, pulling Bruce back to the present. Marin slid into the booth across from him, setting her cane against the table. "You didn't sleep," she said. A statement, not a question. Bruce set his phone down. "Neither did you." Marin exhaled. "I heard the way that man spoke. He wasn't bluffing." Bruce nodded. "They've done this before. And they know they can get away with it." Marin folded her hands. "So, what do we do?" Bruce studied her. The question wasn't if they were going to do something. It was when. She already knew the answer. She just wanted to know his plan. Bruce leaned forward. "We exposed them. But we need proof." Marin leaned back slightly. "That won't be easy. Men like them don't leave paper trails." "They don't have to," Bruce said. "Someone always knows." Marin was silent for a moment. Then, she reached into her coat pocket and slid a small notebook across the table. Bruce raised an eyebrow. "What's this?" She tapped the cover lightly. "Names. Places. Things I've overheard." Bruce opened it. Inside, scribbled notes. Some barely legible. Dates. Locations. Names. Some crossed out. Others underlined. "I've been keeping track of them for years," Marin said. "At first, it was just habit. But then I started noticing patterns." She nodded toward the notebook. "They run half the businesses in this town through proxies. The ones they don't own? They control through intimidation." Bruce flipped through the pages. Marin's voice was steady. "And they have friends in the police department." Bruce's grip tightened on the notebook. This was bigger than just a gang. This was a system. And if the Hell Wolves thought they were untouchable, they were about to find out just how wrong they were. Bruce flicked his eyes to one name in particular. Sheriff Daniel Raines. "Is he in charge?" Bruce asked. Marin's expression didn't change. "He's their protector. Not officially. But if something happens, his department makes sure it never makes it to court." Bruce exhaled through his nose. "Then we start with him." Marin shook her head. "You don't start with the head. You start with the hands. Cut off the hands, and the body falls apart on its own." Bruce smirked. "You sound like you've done this before." She gave a small smile. "I was a medic, Bruce. I've seen how systems work. And how they collapse." Bruce flipped through the notebook again. One name stood out. Johnny Case. It was written multiple times, different dates scribbled next to it. "Who's Johnny Case?" Bruce asked. Marin's expression darkened. "A problem," she said. "And possibly our solution." Bruce listened as Marin explained. Johnny wasn't a leader, but he was close enough to one that he knew where the bodies were buried. He handled drug operations for the Hell Wolves, a lieutenant, not a king. But unlike Rick and Duke, Johnny was sloppy. He had a history of getting caught. If anyone was going to turn on them, it was him. "If he's our weak link," Bruce said, "then we pay him a visit." Marin shook her head. "That's not how this works. You don't go to him. You make him come to you." Bruce narrowed his eyes. "And how do we do that?" Marin took a slow sip of her coffee, letting the question linger. Then she said, "We put pressure where it hurts." Bruce's mind was already working. Force wasn't just about strength, it was about control. You didn't fight an enemy where they were strongest. You made them fight on your terms. He tapped the notebook. "Where does Johnny spend his time?" Marin smirked. "There's a bar on the east side of town. The Roadhouse. It's Hell Wolves territory. But Johnny isn't like the others. He likes to gamble. And he likes to lose." Bruce leaned back, already forming the plan. "That's our opening." Marin tilted her head slightly. "You're going to go in there alone?" Bruce nodded. "That's the plan." Marin exhaled. "Then you'd better be ready. Because if they recognize you, it won't just be Johnny you'll have to deal with." Bruce smirked. "Let them come." The tension between them eased slightly, but they both knew the truth. This wasn't just about exposing the Hell Wolves anymore. It was about dismantling them. Piece by piece. Bruce glanced out the window. The town looked quiet. Too quiet. That was about to change. And when it did, he'd be ready. The call. Bruce sat alone in his motel room, staring at the notebook. The town outside was silent, but he knew it was an illusion. Underneath the quiet surface, something dangerous was moving. The Hell Wolves weren't just a gang. They were a system, deeply embedded, protected by fear and corruption. Bruce had seen groups like them before. The more power they had, the more violently they reacted when someone challenged it. His phone buzzed. An unknown number. Bruce hesitated for only a second before answering. A slow, mocking chuckle came through the speaker. "You really don't know when to quit, do you?" Bruce exhaled slowly. "Rick." "That's right," Rick drawled. "Guess I shouldn't be surprised. You always did like playing the hero, didn't you?" Bruce didn't respond. Let the silence stretch. Rick continued, his tone turning cold. "Here's the thing, Bruce. You're making a lot of noise. And noise like that? It gets people interested in things they ain't supposed to see. That's not good for business." Bruce's grip on the phone tightened. "You should have thought of that before you put your hands on Marin." Rick laughed. "Marin? You really think anyone gives a damn about some blind old woman? They'll forget about her in a week. But you're pissing off the wrong people, Lee." Bruce's voice remained steady. "Is that a threat?" Rick's tone shifted, losing its playful edge. "It's a warning. Take down your little video. Stop asking questions. Walk away. And maybe, just maybe, you'll get out of this in one piece." Bruce let the silence drag again. Then, in a quiet, firm voice, he said, "Come and try." A beat of silence. Then Rick chuckled again. "Have it your way?" The line went dead. Bruce set the phone down, his mind already calculating. Rick wasn't bluffing. The Hell Wolves didn't issue empty threats. They were coming for him, which meant he needed to move first. His phone buzzed again. Not an unknown number this time. Marin. Bruce answered immediately. "I just got a call from Rick," he said. "I figured," Marin said. "They don't let things go." "He told me to stop asking questions," Bruce said. "Which means we're close to something they don't want us to find." Marin was silent for a moment. Then she said, "Bruce, you need to be careful." "I will be." "I mean it," she said. "You're not dealing with a street gang. These men have been untouchable for years. They don't play fair." Bruce leaned forward, his voice steady. "Then neither will I." Marin exhaled. "I might have something, an informant." Bruce's focus sharpened. "Who?" "I don't know his name," she admitted. "But after your video went viral, he reached out. Says he has proof, documents, names, evidence of what the hell wolves are really involved in. Bruce's pulse quickened. Where is he? Parking garage. 5th and Broadway. Tonight. Bruce frowned. Sounds like a setup. It might be, Marin said. But if it's real, this could be exactly what we need. Bruce thought for a moment, then made his decision. I'll go. I'm coming with you, Marin said. No, Bruce said firmly. If something happens, I don't want you in the middle of it. Marin hesitated, then relented. Fine. But be careful. Bruce hung up, grabbed his jacket, and left. The setup. The parking garage was nearly empty when Bruce arrived. Dim lights flickered, casting long shadows across the concrete. The smell of oil and exhaust filled the air as his footsteps echoed through the space. A figure emerged from behind a pillar, hood low, shoulders hunched. You alone? The man asked, glancing around nervously. Bruce stayed relaxed but ready. Yeah. The man exhaled. Good. Listen, I don't have much time. Rick and his guys, drugs and guns aren't their real business. It's trafficking. Women. Kids. That's how they make their money. Bruce's stomach twisted. He had suspected the hell wolves were dirty, but this was worse than he imagined. They own the bars, the strip clubs. Cops know, they just look the other way. You ever wonder why they never get arrested? The man swallowed hard. Too many people making money off it. Bruce clenched his fists. Why are you telling me this? The man hesitated, then whispered, because I can't live with it anymore. Bruce was about to respond when the air shifted. A sound. A movement. Then, the gunshot. The man jerked violently, a bullet tearing through his chest. Blood spilled onto the pavement as he collapsed. Bruce lunged forward, catching him before he hit the ground. He scanned the garage, spotting a motorcycle roaring to life in the distance. A black helmet. A blur. Gone. Bruce looked down. The informant gasped for air, his lips moving weakly. Who else is involved? Bruce pressed. The man's breath shuddered. Too many. Then, nothing. Bruce clenched his jaw, rage burning in his chest. The hell wolves had known. They had silenced him before he could talk. He pulled out his phone and dialed Marin. She answered immediately. We have a problem, Bruce said, voice cold as steel. A pause. Then, Marin's voice, sharp and unwavering. What happened? They just killed my informant. Another pause. Then, her voice colder. Then we hit them harder. Bruce's eyes darkened. Yeah, he said. We do. The war begins. Bruce stood over the lifeless body, fists clenched, the stench of burnt gunpowder lingering in the air. The hell wolves had made their move, silencing the only person willing to talk. But they had just made a mistake. They had declared war. Bruce forced himself to step back. The shooter was gone. The roar of the motorcycle had faded. There was nothing left here but a body. Staying any longer was a risk. He took one last look, then vanished into the shadows. Minutes later, he was back at his motel. He stripped off his jacket, washed the blood from his hands, watching the red swirl down the drain. His reflection in the mirror was steady, but inside, his blood boiled. This wasn't just about him anymore. This was about every person the hell wolves had destroyed. Every victim they had silenced. His phone buzzed. Marin. He answered immediately. Where are you? She asked. At the motel. Are you hurt? No. He exhaled slowly. But the informant's dead. A pause. Then Marin's voice, firm. Then they just made their biggest mistake. Bruce ran a hand through his hair. We need to move fast. If they're willing to kill to keep this quiet, They won't stop. They never do, Marin said. But I think I have something. Meet me in an hour. Bruce grabbed a fresh jacket and slipped out through the back of the motel, keeping to the dark streets. The town felt different now. It wasn't just another stop. It was a battlefield. The weak link. Marin was waiting at her small kitchen table when Bruce arrived. In front of her sat a thick folder. She pushed it toward him as he sat down. I've been keeping track of them for years, she said. This isn't just a gang, it's an empire. Bruce flipped through the pages. Bank records. Property deals. Reports of missing people. Everything pointed to one truth: the Hell Wolves weren't just criminals. They were businessmen. They launder money through local businesses, Marin continued. Strip clubs, trucking companies, even bars. The police know. They look the other way. Sheriff Raines is on their payroll. Bruce nodded slowly. He had suspected as much. We can't take down the whole system at once, Marin said. We need to start somewhere. She tapped a specific name in the folder. Johnny Case. He's the weak link, she said. High enough to know the details, but reckless enough to be vulnerable. He gambles. A lot. Bruce steadied the file. Johnny Case owned a share in one of the strip clubs the Hell Wolves used as a front. If we can get to him, Marin said, we can get everything. He's at the Roadhouse every night, she added. And he's in debt to half the criminals in this town. Bruce set the folder down. Then we squeeze him. Marin folded her arms. You're going alone, aren't you? Bruce nodded. If they see both of us, they'll know something's up. Marin sighed but didn't argue. Be careful. Johnny might be stupid, but the people around him aren't. Bruce stood. I'll handle it. The Roadhouse. An hour later, Bruce walked into the Roadhouse, a Hell Wolf stronghold. The air was thick with cigarette smoke and the stench of cheap beer. Every move he made was measured, every muscle ready to react. Johnny Case sat at the back, losing a game of poker. His face slick with sweat, hands shaking as he threw in another bet. This is rigged, he slurred. The man across from him smirked. No, Johnny. You just suck at this. Johnny hesitated, then scanned the bar for an escape. That's when he saw Bruce. Bruce met his gaze and tilted his head slightly, an invitation. Johnny hesitated, then, sensing a way out, stumbled toward him. I know you, Johnny said. You're Bruce Lee. Bruce didn't respond. Johnny leaned in. I got a proposition for you. Bruce kept his voice calm. I'm listening. Johnny swallowed hard. I need a way out. These guys, they're gonna kill me if I don't pay up. Bruce studied him. He was desperate. Desperation made people dangerous. Give me a reason to help you, Bruce said. Johnny licked his lips. I know things. Real things. You help me, I help you. Bruce nodded. Meet me outside in 5 minutes. Johnny nodded quickly and stumbled toward the exit. Bruce finished his drink and followed. But the moment they stepped outside, the gunshot rang out. The war had begun. Want to see what happens next? Like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Because this fight is far from over.